In this video, we're going to learn how to mentally multiply with multiples of 5. So we look at multiplication with 5, multiplication with 25, 15, 35 and 45. So the reason I'm going to cover multiplication with 25 before multiplication with 15 is something you'll get to know. Another thing I want to highlight is that I don't do mental math with a lot of tricks. So you'll be learning mental math without tricks. Okay, of course I'm going to give you ways to simplify multiplication, but the way to simplify will be with structuring the problem, not really handing you a lot of tricks to solve this multiplication with this kind of trick and all that. So I've never gone about mental math in that way. I've not gone about math generally in that way. So I'm going to give you ways to structure the problem or look at problem in different ways so that you can solve those problems mentally. So let's start with 5. So when you are multiplying with 5, one way you can handle that multiplication is thinking 5 in terms of 10 by 2. Okay, so when it's 14 into 5, you look at 14 into 10 by 2. So instead of multiplying with 10 first, you can divide by 2 first. So you'll get 14 by 2 and then you can multiply with 10. So that will be 70. Similarly, 18 by 2 is 9, so it's 90. 28 by 2 is 14, so it's 140. 36 by 2 is 18, so it becomes 180. That's how you can go about multiplying with 5 when you have even numbers, right? These are even numbers. So divided by 2, you got an integer, right? 18 by 2 is 9. So let's say we have odd numbers of 15 into 5. So again, what I do is I think in terms of even number first. So it's 14 plus 1. So it's 14 by 2 is 7. So 7.5 I'll get if I divide 15 by 2. So 7.5 into 10 will be 75. Similarly, I think it in terms of 16 plus 1. So it's 8.5. So when multiplied by 10 will become 85. Similarly, this is 13.5 multiplied by 10 will become 135. So you understand where 13.5 is coming. Essentially I'm dividing 27 by 2 and then multiplying by 10, which is what we have, right? So 37 by 2 is 18.5 multiplied by 10 is 185. Okay, so when I multiply with 5, I instead think in terms of dividing by 2 and then multiplying by 10. Okay, so that simplifies the job. So again, as you can see, there is no trick involved. I'm just looking at the problem differently. Instead of thinking in terms of multiplying with 5, I'm thinking in terms of multiplying by 10 by 2 and then I'm dividing by 2 and then multiplying with 10. So now let's look at how to multiply with 25. So I can look at 25 as 100 by 4. So again, what I'll do is I'll divide the number by 4 and then multiply it with 100. So if the number is a multiple of 4, then the job is quite easy. So 16 into 25 will be 16 by 4 into 100, which is 16 by 4 is 4, so 400. Similarly, 24 by 4 is 6, so it becomes 600. 28 by 4 is 7, so it becomes 700. And then let's say instead of a multiple of 4, you have a even number but not a multiple of 5. So now there are two ways to go about it. One is that you can divide it by 2 and you can take out 2 separately. So what I mean is think in terms of this. So 46 you can write it as 23 into 2 and then you have 25. So now it becomes 23 into 50, right? So now you have 23 into 15 is, again 50 is 100 by 2, right? So again you divide it by 2, so you get 11.5, but you have multiplying with 100, so it becomes 1150. Okay, so this is a step-by-step approach. You may be thinking, okay, how am I going to take so many steps in my mind? Again, over a period of time, you may be able to skip these steps and really move faster. Okay, so 46 into 25, you may be able to think, yeah, 23 into 50, 23 into 50 is just 1150. Okay, depends on how much you have practiced. So this is one way to do this. Another way is you can simply break it down into a multiple of whole and whatever is extra. So you'll have 44 plus 2 into 25, right? I can think of 46 as this. So this becomes 44 into 25 plus 2 into 25, which is 50. So 44 into 25 is just divided by, this is divided by 4 and multiplied with 100. So it becomes 1100 plus 50. So it's 1150. Okay, now you may be thinking this is probably easier than this. I think so. But at the same time, if we know multiple ways of handling a problem, it's better, because sometimes this might be easier in some context. We don't know. So let's look at this one. So again, I can write this as 31 into 50. So 31 into 5 is 155. This is what we get. Or I can write it as 60 plus 2 into 25. So which gives me 1500 plus 50, which is 1550. Okay, so now let's say we have an odd number. So in this case, only this method will work. Okay, so what I do is I write it as 60 plus 3 into 25. So what I get is 60 into 25 is just 1500 plus 75. So I get 1575. 97 into 25, again I can write it as 96 plus 1. Of course I need to know the closest multiple of 4, right? So this is the thing. So 96 into 25 will be just 2400 plus 25, so which is 2425. Now since this number is very close to 100, I could have also done this multiplication as, let me write it down. I could have thought of this as, so first I'll flip it. Okay, so I generally just manipulate the second number here. Okay, so since I'm going to manipulate 97 here, so I'll flip it and I'll think in this term. So this will be 25 into 100 minus 3, so which becomes 2500 minus 75, which is 2425. Okay, so this is the way we can look at multiplication with 25. Now let's look at multiplication with 15. So if we have an even number, so in any case the way to multiply with 15 is simply break it down into 10 and 5. So I'll think it in terms of 14 into 10 plus 5, which is 14 into 10 plus 14 into 5. So this is 140. And if you think about it, you don't need to calculate this. This is exactly half of this, right? Because this is 10 and this is 5, and we are multiplying with the same number. So this is going to be exactly half of it. So you can just say, okay, the half of it is 70. So you get the number. Now, why does it matter that this is an even number? The only thing is that when you have an even number here, dividing by 2, it becomes a little easier. It's just 14 and you have half as 7. So similarly, 22 into 15 is 22 into 10 plus 22 into 5, which is 110 plus 220 plus half of this, which is 110, which is 330. Similarly, 420 plus 2 and 0, which is 630. Now if we have instead odd number, the method is going to remain the same. It may be slightly more difficult, because you will see that. So it's 17 into 10 plus 17 into 5, so which is 170. Now you need to calculate half of 170. So you can see half of 170, you'll need to think about it a little, which is 85. So it is 255. Okay, the way to think of half of 170 is, so 160 half is 80, so the remaining 10, half of that is 5, so 85. So again 330 plus half of 330 is, so 320 half is 160 and remaining 10 165. How do you add them up? So 300, 400 becomes, right? 300 plus 100, 30 plus 60, 495. This is how I add them up. So now let's look at this one. So 470 plus half of 470. So half of 460 is 230. So 235. How do I add them up? 4, 6, 7, 3, 10. So it becomes 700, 705. Okay, so 7 plus 3 was 10. So I made it 700, right? So I carried that one. But I start from here, essentially adding them up. I don't start from a unit digit when I'm mentally adding. Okay, so now let's look at how to multiply with 35. So the way to multiply with 35 is the same way we multiply with 15. So it is 14 into 30 plus 14 into 5. And that's how you will multiply with every number ending with 5. This way you will break it up. So this becomes 14 into 3 is 42. So 420 plus this is half of 14, which is 770, right? So 5 is just 10 by 2, so it becomes 14 by 2 into 10, 70. So this is 490. So 26 into 35 is 26 into 30 plus 26 into 5. So 26 into this is 780, right? 26 into 5 is 13130. So now this is 800, then you have 11, so 910. 17 into 30 plus 17 into 5, so that becomes 510 plus 85, which is 595. Okay, now if you're multiplying with 45, you can do this way, same way as we are doing with 30. But since 45 is very close to 50, what you can also do is think it in terms of 50. 14 into 50 minus 5. So it becomes 14 into 50 minus 14 into 5. Now 50 is just 100 by 2. So it becomes 700 minus 70. This is just 1/10 of that, right? So 630. Similarly, this you can think in terms of 26 into 50 minus 26 into 5, so that becomes 1300 minus 130. So this I'll do in a repeated way. Repeated way means 1300 minus 100, which is 1200. 1200 minus 30 is 1170. Okay, so you'll get to know how to subtract numbers in the video on mental math, doing subtraction. Okay, so 17 into 45, again I look at this way. So 17 into 50 is 850 minus 85. So again I'll do repeated subtraction. So first I'll subtract 50, so it becomes 800. 800 minus 35. So again I may do repeated subtractions. 800 minus 30 is 770, and then minus 5 is 765. Okay, so this is how you can multiply with multiples of 5. So again, I hope you understand that I did not really teach you any trick. I just taught you how to mentally multiply by seeing problems in a different way. Instead of looking at it as a multiplication with 5, you look at it as a multiplication with 10 by 2. And similarly, instead of looking at it as a multiplication with 25, you look at it as a multiplication with 100 by 4. So that makes things easier, and now you can do these calculations in your mind. Of course, in the beginning you may still have problems doing all this in your mind, but over a period of time, as you become more and more fluent with this, you will see that these calculations, or handling these calculations in your mind, becomes easier. Thank you. I hope this video helps.